everybody's thinking and everyone's having conversations. And a large part of the degree of how successful people are or are not in their personal life and professional life comes down to how well they use their language. Language influences us, and it's very powerful.
Welcome to Barbell Business. I'm Mike Bledsoe here with Doug Larson and Markus Gerszi, and we have traveled to the canals of Venice Beach. Or are we in Venice? Did we transport all the way to Italy?
Not that I know of, and we're close.
We're close.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're here with Mark England, co-founder of Procabulary. If you haven't seen, man, I don't know if we're going to post. Which one's going to post first, do you think?
I'm actually not sure.
Oh.
We did a barbell shrug. We have no idea if this is going to post first or not.
It probably
Keep your eyes
will.
But either way,
Maybe it
look
won't.
it up.
Yeah, Procabulary. Check it out. Mark specializes in the use of language. You know what? I'm going to let you tell people. Because I feel like I did an awesome job on Barbell Shrug, but I think you might be able to do a better job here.
Show them up, Mark.
Contest.
Yeah.
Show what you got.
The short story is we help people resolve their problems and achieve their goals. And we do that by focusing in on how they're using their words and what stories they're creating. It's narrative development. And, yeah, we leverage the power of their own language to help them do more what they want. And
So if you've
Westworld.
watched Westworld, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. Have you seen that at all yet?
I've seen 2 shows,
Okay.
2 episodes.
Could you go into the power of words a little bit, or why language is so important? I think I myself, we rewind 5 years ago, I would be dismissive of this entire idea. People go, there's a lot of power in language, and I'd go, yeah.
Doug remembers.
And
I've had so many of those conversations.
Yeah, Doug definitely remembers. There was an asshole Mike, and there's Mike here today. Slightly less.
Still totally. He's just very selective with his words now.
That's right. Yeah, could you speak to that, please?
Absolutely. Everybody's thinking, and everyone's having conversations. And a large part of the degree of how successful people are or are not in their personal life and professional life comes down to how well they use their language. Language influences us, and it's very powerful. Our thoughts and our conversations essentially architect and build out our inner and outer world, how we see ourselves, our identity, where we stand in the world, what we deserve, and externally, our language, it creates contracts with other people, contracts and relationships. And just like any skill set, people can get better at having constructive, empowered, focused conversations about what they want to do and why they want to do it. And yeah, the language is it's the leverage point of how people go about succeeding in their life. It's I've had numerous conversations with people over the last 10 years. I've been doing this 10 years full time, and for whatever reason, 5 years ago, I was having those same conversations with people. I was talking to them about the power and the mechanism of words and getting a lot of that, oh yeah, really? Response.
Yeah.
And it's gotten, for whatever reason, the stars are aligning, and it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to talk to people about this now than it was 3 years ago and 5 years ago, and especially 7 years ago. I have ideas about what that is, why that is, and I'm glad that is the case, because the more someone develops their language, the more powerful they become. It's that simple. Words equal power.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people listening to this show are gym owners or aspiring gym owners, which means that kind of by default they're the leader. They are either they're by themselves as a trainer or a coach thinking about running a gym someday else in the future, and they have clients that they are leading, or they run a small team and then they have a membership base of 100, 200, or 300 people. So they have their staff they're leading, they have all the people that are the athletes in their gym that they're leading. And in that case, if you're a leader, then your communication skills need to be on point, or you're going to be having trouble growing your gym or selling memberships or getting people motivated enough to be inspired enough to actually show up to the gym consistently and do the workouts and buy into your program. Like that, those are all very much a function of how well you can communicate with those people, whether they actually want to show up or they just go, I'll go to the other gym down the street because this just isn't the place for me. And by the words you use, you frame the context for any conversation. Like if you start a conversation by saying, "Don't be mad," but then
We're already in it.
You're in the hole before you started. And so
Try
you
that out on your wife when you get home tonight. See how the rest of the conversation goes.
I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but
yeah, and like
You
so
always.
that's right. Yeah, that's another great one. Like you always do this. Like
You never. Yeah.
right. And so we're listening to a course that you put together called Procabulary. Our whole team is doing it, and it's helping us frame how we structure how we communicate with each other. And there's a couple of simple tactics that we discussed on the Barbell Shrugged episode that we highly recommend that everyone go watch, because we probably won't cover all the details in this episode because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Go listen to that other episode. But we've learned a lot of things from you where even in the 2 weeks that I've been going through your course, I said this on Barbell Shrugged also, I can't not use all the things that I've learned. Like it's just, now that I know it, I can't not know it. It's like it's too powerful not to use, and I think about it all day long, and I probably will continue to do so. So that course I feel is very powerful. So I thank you on that show. I'll thank you on this show. Thank you for letting us be a part of that course, because it's very, very cool.
pleasure.
Yeah, and in the leadership piece too, you're leading your members, you're leading your athletes, and your coaches, but you're also leading yourself, and that's something that I
By
think
example,
is
yes,
it's commonly missed, is how are you managing yourself? How are you leading yourself? And that also happens with the conversation happening inside your head.
That's the most important conversation anyone ever has.
Yeah.
Is the one with themselves, about themselves.
Yeah, one thing I would note, I think we started Barbell Shrugged 5 years ago, and one of the things that I noticed that changed with me, sometimes people ask me, at what point did you start like trying, you noticed you started making progress in like my own psychology and making progress psycho-emotionally, where I was probably stagnant, where I was stagnant before, and a lot of it was being on camera and speaking for an hour or 2 hours a week, and knowing that we were going to publish this out for the entire world to watch. And all of a sudden, my everyday language changed, because I didn't want my everyday language, as it was then, to slip into a recording where the entire world could go listen to it. So I started being more conscious of the words I use, period, because I didn't want to be seen as this person. I want to be seen as this other person. And so by doing so, by changing my language over time, I actually became the other person. I became the person I wanted to be. Which, if anything, I think that's been part of it. With social media, people are much more, everyone's connecting with words more, and I think it's easier to kind of see everything's being recorded.
A lot more practice.
Everyone can, not only are you saying it, it's not going out into the ether, it's being documented for everyone to see and for the rest of the time. So I think that's an interesting thing too, that might be add to a theory, or maybe that's already one of your theories on why people are actually paying attention to this now. It's because like I personally have seen the power of that in my own life.
That's interesting. I definitely agree. I've had similar experiences. Once I started presenting and giving public presentations, public speaking engagements about Procabulary, that's when my Procabulary skill set really started to shine.
Mm.
And part of that was because that I was putting myself in front of people to be scrutinized, and that adds a very interesting element to someone's personal development. And I'm a co-founder of this. I'm also a very good example of someone who benefited and continues to benefit from Procabulary. I use it every day on myself to construct and manicure my own personal story. I had communication issues as a child, and I was in special class for my entire 6th grade year. It took me 5 years to get out of high school, 5 years to get out of college, 7 years to get my master's, and part of that comes down to my ability to express myself in an effective way, which I've gotten a lot better at. And we talked about a little bit of my background on the last show. Doug, and you're a fighter, ex-fighter, however you want to call it. You're a martial artist. 80% of the reason that I got involved in that was to express my frustrations about not being able to communicate in the ways that I wanted to. The words escaped me. And so, am I the smartest guy on the block when it comes to linguistics? Not at all. Am I the most eloquent speaker? Not at all. Have I made a tremendous amount of progress? Absolutely. Will I continue to practice my ability to talk to myself and other people and create the kind of environment that I want to for the rest of my life? And talking about box owners, the way that the box owner or owners talk to themselves and talk to their coaches and talk to their members, it's the code for the culture of the gym.
Yeah.
Fully sets the tone.
It fully sets the tone. I like the analogy of a probiotic. We all know what a probiotic is, okay? And that's what Procabulary is. We insert that into a group of people, and they start using more of this kind of language, which we covered in the other podcast, and less of this kind of language. And what happens? There's more harmony. There's more unity. There's clear communication. That's what there's more of. What is there less of? There's less drama. There's less misunderstanding. There's less gossip. On a side note, want to do something wonderful for your organization, your gym, cut the level of gossip in half. And that's from the top down, and we know how to do that as far as language is concerned.
But talking
Everybody
shit is so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an addictive quality to chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
You know, talks a lot of shit.
Rob.
Fucking Rob.
Yeah.
Rob.
I hope you're watching this. You're
Rob,
next.
man.
Yeah, I feel
creating
that
drama on the show.
communication is really kind of the key to unlocking control over the dynamic between you and your staff, you and your members, your staff and the members. When you can gain control over how every situation, because everything can be positive, it can be neutral, it can be negative, totally up to how you choose to communicate about it and the words that you select and the cadence and all these little details about how you are trying to portray whatever is needing to be delivered is going to determine one part of this much bigger picture. Well, if you're always painting with slightly negative tones and you're slightly dismissive here, and it's overall, that's going to start to create a certain tone amongst everything that you're doing within the gym. And that's how your values and how you're going to be perceived. I find this to be such an opportunity in a program like Procabulary. I've never seen it done that way before. I thought that was so cool. We've talked about it countless times just amongst the team about how having that technique or those techniques taught this way makes it so digestible to where you can make tremendous progress in just a few days. Like just a few days in, we were already talking like, holy shit, this is really powerful stuff. And this is something that we put a lot of energy into already.
And we're exposed to a lot of powerful stuff all the time. There's no shortage of really intelligent people in our circle. And hopping in and doing that course was very to the point and usable immediately. Whereas, I think a lot of people are going to listen to this show and walk away and it's still being a little ethereal. I think you'll walk away with some things you can use for sure, but the course itself is to the point. Like every day, it's like the rest of the day there are things that I'm keeping in mind. It's changing how I'm thinking.
Yeah, you can show up differently, not just at work. You're showing up differently with your spouse, with your family. Like,
Absolutely.
like you were saying, Doug, it's running all day long. So powerful. And you realize all the little micro opportunities you have, first externally, but then what that does is you start to become aware externally. You start to notice inside your self-talk. And I think that what you were talking about earlier, Mike, is that how because you were doing it externally, it started to change who you were internally and how your self-talk was starting to sound. And for someone who struggles with this or doesn't even know it's a thing, this will just make it happen, right? If you just start doing it externally and start practicing it, it will start to reprogram, I think, subconsciously, that internal language. And this is something I learned years ago, where when I really started to study communication and how the art of persuasion, or just all the different methods and things to consider in communication, when you start to even slightly pay attention to it, it's like it opens this Pandora's box of just opportunities to improve everything. Because when you start to adapt it to what's happening internally, it's like, holy shit, I'm actually in control of all of this. And you realize that I'm going to try approaching this conversation just a little bit differently, and you can get a profoundly different result.
Profoundly.
Right? And all of a sudden you realize, I just maybe used some different words and chose to communicate that a little bit differently, and that little tweak got a completely different output, and the snowball starts to roll.
Yeah.
And for people who are in the relationship business, like a gym owner is, that is what you are in. You provide training, but you are in the relationship business, and not just with your members, but with your team. So communication is everything, right? You are the leader, you are the tribe head within this entire little world that is your gym, and it all goes from the top down. And I think that if you can learn how to communicate effectively and have people truly, like you said, with squashing the gossip and the negativity and positivity, you are in control of actually all of that. And you can, through your team, then infiltrate the entire rest of the community just in how people are showing up conversationally before a workout, after a workout, how they're explaining the workout. These are all, again, little micro opportunities to where you're in complete control of how someone is going to experience this.
Yeah, very well said. As far as the course is concerned, we designed it, like I said in the previous podcast, for people that are busy. We see it as an IV drip of this information into someone's consciousness. And technically what it's influencing is our reticular activating system, otherwise known as the RAS. We all have them. And knowing that this is a part of our process and how to work more with it was one of the most pivotal transformational understandings that I've had personally. What the RAS is we've all had experiences of something. Let's say your friend gets a red Corvette, and you go over and you drive it, and you see 2 commercials on TV about it, and that was enough for you to start seeing more and more red Corvettes out on the street. And you think to yourself, why are there so many more red Corvettes out here? That's because the reticular activating system has been programmed to find more red Corvettes. There were always that amount of red Corvettes out there, and we're just seeing them more. And it also, so it does a job of search and find and edit. It edits things out. So because I'm seeing more red Corvettes, I'm seeing less green trucks, okay, and blue Volkswagens. And when someone is, so bring this back to box owners, if someone is using their language and they're using a lot of conflict language, focusing on problems and negativity, they're training themselves to see more problems and negativity. They're also editing out the opportunities for growth and how to build their business in certain ways. And unfortunately, that is a rampant problem in CrossFit gyms and in most organizations on a whole.
And I think that that's currently particularly an issue. There seems to be a very kind of like there's a lot of dark clouds over kind of the affiliate owner world at the moment, as it seems to me, a lot of people, as this marketplace is maturing, we talk about this a lot on the show, and as competition is getting stiffer and you have to show up better in your marketplace for your members in every way. There's a lot of negativity, a lot of negative talk that I hear now when I get on the phone with a box owner, where a couple of years ago there was a lot more abundance and a lot more opportunity, and we're a part of this special thing, and they were really embracing it. And I think that was moving everybody forward. But as people are starting to get into these negative loops, everyone's talking about how hard it is and how, it's like, oh, the competition and oh my God, and I have to spend on marketing. And it's just negative, negative, negative. Everything seems to kind of be going down. But by the time you get onto a conversation, you start having a conversation with them about what are they going to do with their business, or where can we focus next. Everything has been brought so narrowly focused, and it's all through a negative lens. There is no more opportunity or abundance, but there's actually more.
It's harder to get them over to that opportunistic conversation, that empowered where we go from here conversation.
Yeah.
Because they've in one sense, you did this a lot. Well, you did this several times with your hands, and that's what it does. Conflict language constricts us, and it just like blinders focuses us in on worst case scenario land.
Mm-hmm.
And the more time someone spends there, it's just like not working out.
The harder it gets to break out of it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And if someone is creating those issues in their gym, with their team, with their members, people understand when they're in pain. Okay, people understand when things are going wrong, when stuff hurts. Okay, we get that feedback now, why that's happening, and knowing that there is if there's a drama conflict going on, if there's a problem with morale, then I guarantee you that there is a story issue going on, and if there's a story issue, there's a language issue going on. Words. Our thought model in Procabulary is words to stories, stories to realities. So I can't keep losing members because if I do, then this, and this will happen. Those words create certain kinds of stories along those same lines, and then all of a sudden they have the reality of being very uncoachable, worrying, excessive worry.
Which is great for morale.
It's great for morale. Everybody thrives on that.
Yeah.
And guess who picks up on it? What else does it? What else does it influence? Smiling. What keeps the lights on in a gym? Sales. Okay. And I travel a lot, and so I go in. I've been in quite a few CrossFit gyms. This past Saturday, I went in 8. I was handing out some flyers for a thing we were doing, and I was blown away by the amount of gyms that I went into and was greeted moderately warm or even cold.
Mm-hmm.
There were 3 gyms that the person that approached me was all smiles. Guess how much more interested I was in about listening to what they did and why and how much their membership cost.
Mm-hmm.
20 times more.
Yeah, who wants to be around like a sour, gloomy coach? That sucks. You walk into a gym and the coach is like, just vibe sucks. Oh, awesome! I totally want to give you all my money to come and train here all the time.
Yeah.
I want that. Case. Nobody says that. Nobody goes in there to where they're to feel worse. Who goes into a CrossFit gym to feel worse?
Yeah, if you come strolling up to your session like Eeyore, you're no one's going to enjoy that, right? But if you show up and you are the best part of their day because this is the physical thing this is what they've been looking forward to. I'm going to make progress. This is a positive thing, and you've got an awesome attitude. That shit is addictive. People want to be around that.
Big time.
And it's something we would coach our staff at my gym where, for example, someone walks into the door. If you're sitting, you immediately stand up and walk around whatever is between you and that person, eyes locked, and you walk over and you greet them. And people would think that I was crazy when I would first tell them that when they would get hired on board, but they would immediately see how that changes how someone, I feel good, I feel welcome, and amazing, this place feels so good. Well, that's because someone just felt really excited to come and meet you and welcome you into our little world. And those things, when someone is kind of selective, and even worse, like in our industry, a lot of people who are walking into your gym for the first time are pretty scared about what might happen or how hard this might be, or I'm probably going to fail again, or maybe there's a lot of negative lot of negative language kind of cycling in that little voice in the back of their head already. So anything that's not, fun or, a positive thing that's going to make them say, oh, this feels good. Never mind. This feels great. Then you're already losing the battle already. And so many gym owners who we will talk to as they're trying to break through, and they're like, man, if I don't get my shit together, like I'm going out of business, or I don't want to go back to like sitting at a desk, but I can't like feed my family. And you listen to how they explain what's going on. It's like, no wonder you're struggling, man. Your language sucks. You just painted a really sad picture for me. And it's going to be really hard to break out of that if you're using words like that. I had a conversation with someone very, very recently where it was just negativity. And then she goes immediately into telling me like, yeah, but I've got a great attitude about it. I was like, I hate to break it to you, but no, you don't. There was nothing that felt good about that conversation. You just basically painted like the worst scenario ever for me about your life and how you're feeling about it, and how this is so hard and this is so terrible, and I don't know what to do next, but I've got a great attitude. And it's like, holy shit, I can see it, I can feel it as you're explaining this, and you can give me that little pitch at the end, but I bet you're not showing up like that when someone walks in your gym, or you're picking up the phone for the 40th time that week, or whatever the thing is.
Those were good intentions. The road to hell is paved with good intentions and poor planning. And the poor planning is that conflict language on repeat in the background.
So I know that part of what you do also is fear resolution,
yes.
Right? How do you work with people in helping them go from a place like this back onto a positive track and start heading in the right direction?
Let's take a break, and then we'll get into that. Cliffhanger.
Cool.
My name is Meg Herman. I am the co-owner of Reebok CrossFit Coastal Carolina on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. I am here to tell you what a difference Barbell Logic has made to our business in the last 8 months. In that time period, we have grown by 67 new members. That's net new members. And our revenue, top line revenue, is up 31%. When I first met the Barbell Logic team, I was the quintessential harried entrepreneur doing just about everything you can think about in the gym to keep it going, to keep it growing. So I thought it was a real struggle, constantly coaching, accounting, cleaning, doing all those things. And what I was recognizing at that point was we weren't growing. And I was working really hard in the business, but not on the business. So when I met Barbell Logic, we spent a great deal of time talking about best practices. How do we really create the systems that help us run the gym and create the growth and the profitability that we need? We spent a ton of time talking about best practices, talking about the systems that you need to run a gym effectively and to grow and to focus on growth. And every market's different. My demographic is different from yours and from the next person's gym. But the key is to create the systems that are going to work for you. When I met the Barbell Logic team, I really feel like I gained a team of consultants, people that were ready to help us and create those ideas. And then we implemented the tool. But the first thing that happens is we redesign the website, and our website is killer. It is very interactive. It's actually a lot of fun, but most importantly, there's several calls to action. Some people come to the website and they're not quite ready to sign up for that free week. They can interact with a video or they can download an ebook. It's a lot of fun. They can get a lot of information. But as soon as they start giving us their information about who they are, they're a part of our system, and then we have them to talk with over time, so that eventually they come in. And it's beautiful. The whole thing works without me doing anything at all. All right, so then the next thing that happened is we really started working on our systems. The new client experience, the new athlete experience is crucial. It's crucial in gaining new members. And I feel like we've got a really good system that's in place for when a new athlete comes into our gym, and it's 90% automated. That means I only have to touch it here and there and make a quick phone call, reach out, find out how people are doing. This has made all the difference. We also have a real referral program. We're sending out surveys on a regular basis, and we're talking to our athletes, retaining our athletes, and giving them good information along the way. It's working really, really well. Our visitors, when they come to the website, know exactly what to do, and we talk to them on a regular basis before they come in. The visitor piece was really huge for us in our vacation land of Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. What I want to tell you most about if you're running your business without a funnel of new athletes, a sales funnel, you're really missing the boat. I feel like what BARBELLLOGIC has provided us is an enterprise level solution for a small business, right? Every day I go into my dashboard and I look and see who's interacting with us, who needs a phone call, who might be coming to visit the gym the next day or so. And I have a couple of touch points to work on so that I have a continuous process and a continuous sales funnel and a continuous stream of new athletes. The key to growth, I believe, is to be able to focus on that on a daily basis and to keep improving and keep working at it. And we at Reebok CrossFit Coastal Carolina, we're not going to stop. I really feel like we are on a pathway to control this marketplace and to be the CrossFit in our area. And I owe a lot of that to the folks at BARBELLLOGIC. And if you want to improve your gym and if you want to have that kind of stability in your market, I highly recommend you get on a call with BARBELLLOGIC. I feel like this is the tool you need to grow.
And we're back. Mark
barrel.
England.
Indeed. Double
Talking
barrel.
about language, talking about
Words and stories.
fear resolution is where we were wanting to go next.
Yes.
I ain't
So
heard.
Marcus, man, you were going in hard. I'm enjoying just watching.
we're going in. Yeah, we
It's the
were.
only way it goes in.
You like watching?
Let's
It's weird.
let's
Mike
see.
loves to
So
watch.
freaking weird.
Yeah, it's a thing.
So Mark,
Don't drop the ball.
I'm not going to screw this up, Mike. Jeez.
We can't retake this.
No, this is live, real
I
time.
would never do that.
So we're talking about helping someone break through fear resolution and kind of getting out of that negative loop that people find themselves in, or maybe they don't even realize necessarily that you're in
Right.
when you work with people. And I know that you have some techniques into how to do that. Can you
Right.
elaborate a little bit on how you do that?
Happily, yeah, very much so. One of the things we specialize in is helping people get over humps, so to speak, personal blocks about what they can do, why they deserve to do it. And a lot of times their issues in their gym come from experiences they've had in their childhood, okay, or in their adolescence. Recently, I was working with someone, CrossFit box owner, who was having issues about deserving to be in the position that they were.
Mm.
And what we did is I got them talking about that scenario. Okay, so it livens up the emotions around it, and we have strategic questions to find out about what's going on in the background. It's very valuable information, and they located a feeling in their core. And I asked them, "Does that remind you of anything?" And they went instantly to the times in their 9th grade year where they were being bullied. Okay, there was a person that bullied them a lot. And that experience and their interpretation of that experience set up a belief system in them that they're not good enough. And so when they got in a position to prove to themselves that they are indeed good enough to be in this successful position, that part of them was putting on the brakes. So what we do in a situation like that, we have them, once we've identified a specific story, and there was one specific story out of all these, some stuff happened at lunch, they got in a fight, and it was embarrassed, and people saw, and they got laughed at, big humiliation thing. Humiliation's a big one.
Yeah.
We had them title the story, like a title to a movie. It was Lunchtime Chaos. That was the title. And then write the story down. First things first. Get that thing out of your mind. get it on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Once it's out of your mind and on paper, then you can do some amazing things with it. We've all been to school and we've all handed in papers, right? Have any of you, I've done it, handed in your rough draft?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
happened? What happened when you handed in your rough draft?
I got straight A's like always.
Your
Bam!
better
Nailed
than
it.
Uh,
Yeah.
No, I always
trying to
I don't like
remember.
writing, so I always handed my rough draft because I wanted to write it one time and be fucking done with it.
Is only
Because
the
I
rough
hate- I hate
draft.
writing. There was no second draft coming. I was like, didn't matter what I got on it. I was happy just to be done.
Got it.
Go
Got it.
back to math class.
Marcus, what happened when you handed in your rough draft?
Well, I actually had a lot of similar experiences like Doug, where I actually would turn it in thinking this is just total dog shit, but I got this done like 3 hours before I was supposed to turn it in, and ended up getting a really good grade on it. And
Okay,
it
cool.
was, to me, it's kind of become almost a tactic to getting work done that is in that nature, because I know that the more I refine it, the experiences I had in refining and over refining, I would turn in something that was then more blah and less raw or less real or whatever versus that first take. So I actually will go through, I'll do a first take all the way through, and then I will go through and just edit and make sure I don't sound like a donkey, and there you go.
Got it. Most people don't have a rough draft. We use that analogy most of the time, myself included. When someone hands in their rough draft, they get their work improves as they refine the story. Okay, as they develop the content. So the second draft and the third draft, it's usually a better product. Like as you guys
If it
have,
makes you feel any better, I usually did it like 2 or 3 times before I turned it in.
right?
So Mike's,
Right.
Mike's the right example. We were
Right.
the wrong ones to ask. Sorry.
I'm the perfectionist out of all of us. I think that's.
Did you get a better? Did you get a better?
Liar.
Did you get a better grade with the more revisions that you made? Usually.
I usually wrote it like 3 or 4 times before I would even let anyone see it.
Most people, they don't even have a rough draft about their story. It's all stored in their mind, which is a large part of the reason why it loops. They never get closure. They never get resolution about it. So it stays as a sore spot, so to speak, and it's quite easily triggered. We have people identify the memory, title it, write it out. Okay, these are the steps. Write it out. That's step 1. Step 2, read it out loud. In that process of telling your story, sharing your story, you get in contact with it. Step 3 is to read that story at 70% speed. So you slow down how fast you're reading it. And what happens is in that process of slowing down the process of telling the story, people start to breathe more. And by the nature of these stressful stories, they activate that sympathetic nervous system response. We've been talking about that a lot today. And they start to breathe into their abdomen. And what happens, interestingly enough, in their mind and the way they see it, they start to get some distance from it, as opposed to living it, as opposed to being part of their identity and factual. It becomes they're the observer in it.
Feels like a lifetime ago.
Exactly. They literally
Right.
they get breathing room.
Right.
Step 4, and I'll recap these in a second. At each period, and we have them write it out as if they were telling it with proper grammar. There was 2 paragraphs for this woman's or this person's particular story. At each period, we had them make a line, and that's the break point. So they would, okay, so we were in the cafeteria, and that so-and-so came up and they pushed me. Period. Pause. Breathe. Deep breath down into their abdomen. Let it out. Then pick up the next sentence. And so on and so on. And this gives people a tremendous amount of distance and perspective to where they can then move on from that story. So the quick recap: identify it, title it, write it down, read it out loud at 70%, and then at the periods, pause and take a deep breath. And I've used this from procrastination to torture and war crimes and everything in between. And it always helps people be owners of their story as opposed to their story owning them. And the more of those kinds of stories, whether they're coming from a place from where their parents exemplified lack and limitation in their actions and thoughts and things that they communicated to them as a child, experiences of being bullied or whatever in their teens, the more of those parts of people's stories, we're talking to box owners right now, the more of those stories that almost everybody has, that you, I, anyone in this field processes, the easier it is for you to actualize the kind of gyms that you want and allow yourself to have them. Allowance, it's a big one. We were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
Deserving. Do I deserve this?
Mm.
It's a lot easier to say, yes, I do deserve this, with those kinds of stories identified and remediated to a degree. And do you need to be completely healed before you can get in that position to have the kind of success that you want? No. Go for 80-20. If somebody gets 80% of them on the side of the fence that, yes, we're doing this and it's going to work, and then 20% of them saying, well, perfect, that's plenty, go for it.
What are some signs that someone might have something like that lurking in the subconscious? Because, that bully incident probably doesn't bubble up to the consciousness every day, and it's not thought about and remembered. However, it is creating the pattern that generates this behavior moving forward. And I think the noticing, oh, I notice I procrastinate a lot. Why is that? And then how do you once you pull that thread, how do you follow it all the way back to that point?
Those kinds of memories, those kinds of belief systems, yes, procrastination, arguments, fear responses, basically they're the architect of chaos.
Yeah, I would say one for me that I've identified would be anger and frustration.
Mm.
If I'm experiencing those, there's why
why am I feeling this way? Where is it coming from?
It's 3:00 in the afternoon and I'm by myself. Why am I getting angry?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's when I'm doing certain types of work.
How volatile? I like talking about volatility.
Yeah.
How volatile is someone? The more my experience with myself personally and then also professionally, the more conflict stories that people have running in the background, the more volatile they are for anger or for fear or for procrastination.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Volatility.
Yeah. Something I feel like something I have learned in the last. You watch Barbell Shrugged, you know what I just did. Not soft talking my way through this.
Well done, Doug.
Good save.
Yeah, something I've learned over the last couple of years is, with myself and with others, it's almost like I can see when someone gets mad that the thing they got mad about has nothing to do with the fact that they're mad. It's this little excuse that they use to express the anger that was already there. And the anger often stems from something like that. They're mad about something that happened in their past, or they feel like they've been wronged, or they feel like they don't get enough respect for some reason that was years and years and years ago, and it's still in there for some reason. And then someone knocks their phone on the ground. They're like, "What the fuck? God damn it!" And like, why'd you do that? And like they flip out, and you're just like, "Whoa, dude! Like I didn't mean to knock your phone on the ground. I'm sorry. Like here's your phone back." And some of that, that was kind of at peace, so to speak, and they don't have that thing in the background, which whatever that is, it might not be their fault at all. They might have been abused as a child, and it totally is not their fault, but it's still in there. Someone at peace, knock their phone on the ground, they go like, "Oh, dang!" Oh, and they know it was an accident, and they pick it up, and they're like, "Oh, don't worry about it, no big deal."
Exactly.
And so that's the kind of thing you're talking about. This story and this example, this person was bullied, and that's still in there. They felt very hurt by that. They felt very embarrassed, humiliated, and there's still there's still something in there that's really aggravating them to this day. Do you find what I'm saying is accurate in your experience working with people?
It's supremely accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, very much so. Someone drops their phone, and they pick it up. Everything's cool. the person that explodes, that's their whole background story or a certain segment of their background story. It's because it's not about the phone. I drop a plate. It's not about the plate. It's my interpretation of what that means about me. So if I've got I'm a klutz and I always fuck things up. If I've got that idea running in my mind that's supported by 17 memories in my childhood, unresolved, then I drop the plate and I have that interpretation of the event. Or let's make this more focused. Let's say enrollment's down in the gym. That is what it is. So I have the story of that and then my interpretation about what that means. And my interpretation about what that means is reflective of my interpretation about myself. So is enrollment down because it's, that the holidays and people are out doing what they're doing? I could view it that way. I could also view it, enrollment's down because I was never going to succeed at this in the first place. Where's that thought coming from? Is that factual, or is it based on some previous experiences that I'm still carrying around with me? I mean, luggage, baggage. It's a very accurate analogy.
That's a thought that may be lurking back there that you may not tell your friends.
People are so shocked. I mean, I've stopped counting how many times people are surprised about what's in those memories.
Yeah.
They understand the thought processes, the ideas that scare them. When they get into the actual content of the stories that are fueling that fire, they're shocked and relieved. Anybody can have a better story. The more we understand about the mechanisms of story and how to liberate ourselves, a lot of that comes down to word choice and breathing. We're talking about turning ourselves into what we've always dreamed of. That's exciting. That's exciting. When someone has command and control over their words, their thoughts, their stories, how they communicate what they say, those are the people that end up doing things, and people look and to use negation, they don't know how they've done it.
Right.
I mean, you think Elon Musk is worrying about what someone said to him when he was 13? Probably not.
Yeah. I mean, some people, do you think the opposite happens in some cases where someone did say something to someone when they were 13 and now that's like the negative driving force that's making them want to be successful just to prove that motherfucker wrong?
I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, and that kind of person with that kind of drive, they rust themselves out. Those are the kind of people that get burned out. If someone's the victim mentality, it's extremely powerful in a sense. People can, and you've all met victims that are very energized about the whole thing, and they go out to prove somebody from somewhere, but way back then, wrong. And even when they get to where they were going, they're still charged, and it's negative. And that leads to burnout when someone is, let's just say, to that 80% rule. Owning their story. They have that much ownership of their story, 80% ownership. They're doing what they love, and they can just do that for a long, long time. It's a different kind of fuel.
Well, we've seen this with both athletes and I've seen this with athletes and entrepreneurs. And so, an athlete who achieves their goal, AJ, our friend AJ Roberts talked about this. So, first guy to squat 1,200 pounds.
Wow.
And as soon as he had done it, he was depressed. Like 10 seconds later, couldn't even celebrate. And then the same thing happens with the entrepreneur who breaks 7 figures, breaks 8 figures, and they're 35 years old and they did 8 figures. That's amazing. Most people never could dream to do that much revenue. That's just would blow it. They get there and then they want more. And they're never happy. They're still miserable because they're not at 9 figures. And so there's it. I've seen it drive people, and then they either just crash or they go, oh, I have to. The thing that was driving me is now holding me back.
Mhm.
And so I think I've had that experience. I know I've had that experience.
I
Of,
talked about it in the previous show.
yeah,
the fight,
I've had
first
I've had the
Mhm.
experience of the thing. I wanted to prove a lot of people wrong
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. That motivated the majority of my behavior until I was 30. And then thereafter, there was a recognition of, oh shit, I need to get out of my own way. So,
I had a well-entrenched victim mentality. I didn't know it.
right.
And if someone had point blank told me to my face, I'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Mhm.
Once I got my head around the language, word choice, conversation enough, there's just no escaping it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that in and of itself can be kind of a negative feedback loop depending on how it's framed. Where if someone is in this victim mentality where they think people think they're a loser, and then you say you have a victim mentality, that's almost like one more person calling them a loser, because only a loser would have a victim mentality, and then it's like even more incentive for them to say no, I don't, and to like not admit to to themselves or to anyone else.
100%, Doug.
You know, how do you
100%.
how do you pull someone out of that? How do you kind of skillfully let someone know that that the way that they're thinking is not the healthiest way to think, and or to let them even recognize that they have kind of a negative story about themselves and the world, and that's actually the thing that's really at the deepest level holding them back from being the best person they can be and from growing the best or the largest or most fun, or however they're framing their success in business, the best business that they can make.
Best case scenario, don't get into that conversation with them.
Find a new client.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Once,
Say this is like your brother and you really care about him.
Got
You
it.
know, that type of thing.
yep.
Yeah.
Gauge how open that person is. Being able to gauge how open that person is at that time to hearing what you say, that's a big part of it. Family is a tough one.
Yeah.
That was
Tough.
it.
Toughest.
Can I share something?
Yeah,
I
go
think I have
for
some
it.
insight with this.
Go for it.
What I've seen work is third party.
Mhm.
Is bringing an outside someone, especially if it's family.
Yeah.
Bringing
yeah.
somebody in that's not close to the action, that can be a little more objective, and there's not as much emotional charge around that thing. So,
Yeah.
in my experience in working with people, not that we're doing exactly the same work, but I've watched people move into empowerment
Mm.
because that would be the next stage out of victim, the way I see it, and moving from victim to empowerment can be very unpredictable. What triggers somebody into being able to move into that space?
It's a very
it-
personal
it-
path,
it,
yes.
it tends to be different. For some things are in common, but for the most part, I recognize that what actually got someone to make the decision or make the choice to step into empowerment, it seems to be different for everybody. So it's so hard to predict. There's all these. I feel like, or I think you can create a scenario that would set them up for success, but it's still not very predictable.
If I can add to that a little
Yeah,
bit.
go for it.
My experience with that has been if you can zoom out together and be able to look at the situation from a different perspective together. So if, for example, you're talking to someone about they're struggling with breaking through with their business and whatever their issue is they're very zoomed in, right? And being able to zoom out and kind of ratchet out the conversation together and acknowledge that you're at the next layer, like we're not talking necessarily about what you're doing wrong, but as much as like, let's talk about how this affects, your impact in your community and you not being comfortable with selling, for example.
Yeah.
Conversation we have a lot is that, it's a deservance thing. It's a value thing. But when you can look at like, well, why did you start this business? And they're like, well, I wanted to make an impact in my community. I want to help people. I've got, this is what I love to do. Great. So let's talk in that layer for a minute and get someone comfortable with being outside of that zoomed in space that they usually live in. and they can understand like what I'm doing this for and what the bigger picture is. And then you, from that perspective, can shift over and now look back at that situation and say, well, how is that now affected by this? And so now someone can look at that from a new layer or new level and say, oh, you're right. I don't get to help anybody if if someone doesn't understand why we're doing this and how we can help them. Right? You told me you're in the relationship business. You do this because you care about the people in your community and you want to see a healthier, stronger, more aware community, and that's what you do because that's what you're passionate about, and that's why you started this business. But the second you start selling something, you start getting really uncomfortable. You have no value around what you're doing, and you're portraying this really like negative, shy, like you're coming from this afraid place. But when you talk about what you do every day, you're on this like mountaintop and with all this like strength and whatnot. So if you look at it from that perspective and say, okay, well let's view it from there and say, well, do you get to be there when you're coming from that place? And they're like, oh no, I don't actually get. No one's gonna sign up for my gym, right? No sales equals no business, period. End of story. So when you can now say, okay, well, you don't get to make your impact unless you get to connect with people and have them actually understand what you can do for them, because you're not selling a workout program, you don't sell training, you sell people accomplishing things that they never thought they can do or things that they have failed at most times. You make something fun that is really, really important and that most people hate. Most people dread going to the gym by themselves. Most people think a diet is hard. You make eating well easy and fun because you make it really simple, right? You have little nutrition contests and things at your gym that help people break through. You help make working out their favorite part of their day. Most people have never experienced that in their life where they're like, I literally look forward to going to the gym every single day. I even come here if I'm not working, I'm just going to hang out on the foam rollers and socialize, right? You are doing something really important for that person. And you really understanding that and thinking about that before you have your sales conversation every time is going to get you zoomed out and realize how important this conversation is to that person. Not that you need to close another deal. It's that you have an opportunity to help someone who's asking for help and they don't know how to understand it. So my experience has been is when you can ratchet someone out and look at it from a different perspective, you have the opportunity to have them see it from a new angle for the first time. And that tends to be a very powerful way, in my experience.
Extremely well said. During that semi-long pause, I was thinking about exactly what he just said, how to redirect their focus, more on a technical level. And that's what has to be done in order to get them to a place where they can look at that victim mentality if they're going to be ready to do it. So have them focus on what they do and why. Yeah. And then and some people don't want to hear that they're creating those kinds of problems for themselves. Negation, acknowledge. Some people want the problem to be exclusively external. It's easier. In some senses, it's a lot easier. In the short term, and in the long term, it's terrifying. When we do corporate coaching, go in, train a group of people, and one of the things we tell the check writer is that we're going to be able to tell you who the unsalvageable victims are. That no matter what you do, how positive you are, how much training you give them, they're going to hang on to their victim centricities regardless of what happens. And it's very valuable to know who those people are inside your organizations, because you can then make strategic decisions to keep them on or not. Are they irreplaceable? Okay, I'm going to keep them on and work around them, work them into the system this way, or they're replaceable.
And I find that applies to your personal life too.
Yeah,
100%.
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
How you're going to edit that within a company, where you're going to be able to identify are these people who are going to progress with me or not progress with me, and you kind of have to you come to that realization, I think, as you learn more about these things, that some people aren't going to change, and I hate to say it this way, but it's like they're replaceable. They're people who are just kind of along for the ride, and that will make a huge impact into the people you surround yourself with. That is I think a huge part of making progress too, because a lot of those stories are tied to those anchors that you are still just hanging out with, or that you have in your life where you're like, dude, that person is not serving you in any positive way, shape, or form. and yet they're still a part of your life every day.
Yeah, there's another thing I was thinking about, something I've actually seen work commonly is travel. Somebody getting out of their common environment, being
That's huge.
being
Yeah.
in your trying to do work where you're changing how you think or how you approach the world. Doing that kind of work in a familiar environment is very difficult. If you're interacting with the same people, so on and so forth. So when I see people make the most change the most quickly is when they've traveled to it. They go out of town. They're in a different place. Their entire day is different. They don't have those patterns because 95% of our day is on autopilot, and consciousness is, our consciousness is about 5%. Trying to override this 95% autopilot thing, and if we get put in a new environment, now the consciousness has to be up-leveled. That prefrontal cortex has to be firing a little bit harder. The subconscious is subdued a little bit, and now you get introduced to these new ideas, and you start connecting dots you weren't able to connect before.
Yeah.
So I've seen some of the biggest changes I've seen with people is when this is where like retreats come in super handy, and this is why retreats are becoming more and more common all the time, is because people recognize that, yeah, you could sit at home and maybe read this book and do this thing, and I personally have created an environment where it's suitable for change, and the environment I used to exist in was not. So, but it was after going to many retreats myself that I realized that, I know how to create a home where change is easily achieved. So I kind of create an environment for that. But most people, their environment, their home is set up maybe the way their parents had it set up. And they're kind of doing the same thing. And when everything else is the same, breaking that pattern is very, very difficult. So I think travel to retreats is actually a really great way. If your brother, buy him a retreat. You say, hey, why don't you go on this retreat?
That's a cool gift.
That is a
That
cool
would be a
gift.
cool gift.
That's a great way to approach
You
that.
got 5 G's just to burn. Yeah.
On a similar note, one of the kind of like life models that I've kind of used for myself, I think it's very valuable to move like every 5 or 10 years because you have a story about yourself, but everyone also has a story about you. And so, like, what do they say about, when you get through high school, you have 3 things you need to do. You need to leave, you need to leave, and you need to leave. You got to go somewhere else.
I've never heard that. That's
really?
great. Yeah.
All right, you got to go somewhere
That
else.
is so true.
Anywhere else, but stay in your
So
hometown.
true.
Reinvent yourself. Right?
Yeah, it gives you the opportunity to kind of almost automatically reinvent yourself. Not even reinvent yourself. It allows you the opportunity to just be the current you.
Yeah.
Without
That's what I mean. Yes,
Yeah.
it allows you to kind of grow into your new version of you.
Right.
And even extended trips, I have found, like even if you're coming back to the same place,
Totally.
someone who goes away for an extended period and comes back can be there away and out of the loop long enough to do some reprogramming and come back to the world, and they're like, they start showing up a little bit differently. They start acting a little bit differently. A lot of progress is made when you're out of your element. I personally experienced that. We talked about this when we first met, about traveling and living abroad and how that is literally the fast forward button on like personal development and growth. When you throw yourself into a situation where you're just going to have to figure it out and you're flipped on all the time to like make friends, how do I navigate this like social environment to I've got to like find a place to sleep or to like make money or whatever it is, you will
all in.
You're all in. All the lights are turned on and you are progressing and you're having to make new friends. You're like, well, I'm going to try this. Fuck it. Why not?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, 6 months later, you're a brand new person. It's so powerful.
Yeah. There's aside from travel, something I've also done the last couple years is being very selective with friends. And the people I hang out with most are actually I hang out with a bunch of people that are in personal development as their work. So it makes it easy. And the thing that I notice that they do well is they're always seeing you as the future version of yourself.
That's awesome.
They're always, the conversation is about what is it that you want most out of 2017? What are you looking to achieve? What are you gonna embody? What are you gonna, where are you going? How can I support you? And changing. Everybody is most people in my life are at a point where they're not attached to me
Mm.
and that they don't feel they need my presence in order to be happy. So my changing doesn't ruin their day. Whereas, if I were in what would be probably a common circle of friends, a lot of times when somebody starts to change, people call the psychologist. Say we need to give this motherfucker some Xanax because they're not behaving.
Who do you think you
They're
are?
not behaving the way I'd like for them to behave.
And I
They're-
need
they're
them to do this so
yeah.
I can feel this.
They're starting.
projection.
They're starting.
Right.
They're starting to question. They're starting to question. Oh, what's going on here? And people go, oh, they're like waking up to stuff. We got to put them back to sleep.
Yeah.
Because if you are changing, more than likely you're making your friends uncomfortable.
Well, you're throwing their story off.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
their pattern's running, and now you're part of that pattern, and now you pull that out, and now they start to freak out. So if your friends are freaking out, you're probably doing a good job.
Always freak your
Friends,
friends out.
family.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely your family.
Just make sure to
Yeah.
scare the shit out of your mom on a daily basis.
It's healthy.
It's good for her.
My mom's conditioned.
Yeah.
Like my
Mom
brother
has
and
no
I.
fear.
By the time my brother and I got into our 20s, she's like, I don't.
She's numb.
Anything could happen at this point.
These two
Screw
psychos.
it. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. I think. Man,
I love that note about your friends. It's very
Yeah.
important who we associate ourselves with. The power of proximity is a very real thing. I know when one of the ways that I gauge myself for being a world-class friend is when I'm in the position, the space, I put myself in that position in space of where I want to see that person succeed at everything that they want to do regardless of what happens to me. And when I occupy that, it's as powerful of a position that I've found to gauge how well of a friend, a good of a friend that I'm being. And conversely, I want to be around people. I choose to associate with as many people that want that same thing for me as possible. People that want me to succeed regardless of what happens to them. And in that, you hit that hockey stick.
Yeah.
You can tie that back to the gym owner big time. Right? Because when you see like a thriving gym and you see the dynamic that they have between the athletes and the athletes have with them around, like they're like, hey, I'm going to get you as far as I can. I'm going to give you everything I can. I just want to see you succeed is how you're showing up for your athletes. Whether I'm coaching you or someone else coaches you, I just want to see you crush it. That hits home with people on a really deep note. And guess what?
Time.
That's going to get spun around to you. And again, if that's the world you're creating and that's the world that people are a part of every day, I think you condition them to want to do the same thing for you. They're going to start showing up to where they're like, anything we can do to make you be successful, we're a part of it. Whether it's I'm going to buy that shirt that I don't even think that looks that cool, but I know you're trying to make a couple bucks off of it, and I represent you. I show up to your events. I'm there. It's even if it's not the most convenient thing in the world because I want to see you succeed. And those things I think add up to that magic in the context of a gym owner. That I think that's a sign.
That's a sign of things going very, very well internally as far as the backstory is concerned. That is one of the fruits of a platinum level culture having been developed, because I know for myself to be in that position as a friend or a coach or a mentor that I have to have a certain kind of conversation with myself about myself running and in place for me to be able to say, dude, how can I help you go to the top? I'll stay exactly where I am because things are cool here. I'm okay. I want to see you do it. And that you're absolutely right. There's a feedback loop there, and it's palpable. And when people feel that, members, they turn into cheerleaders. Tell their friends. They get the results.
Yeah, very powerful position, I think, to becoming a very powerful place to be coming from or to get in tune with.
And that 80-20, somebody gets, let's say for me, I've got 80% of my story in place. It's detailed, it's manicured. 80%. Yeah, there's part of me that still throws up its little tantrums from time to time, and I know what to do when that happens. I know why I'm doing it, and I can live the rest. If things stay just like that, I can do everything that I choose to do, intend to do, want to do, and do it well enough. And well enough is good. Good enough is good. Good enough is actually great.
Great words.
We
All right.
actually we didn't talk a lot about. I think we got into it a little bit where we talked about the benefits of Procabulary. Can you give us a quick rundown because we're going to wrap this up? If you go to procabulary.org, what are people going to find there? What's the benefit of taking that course?
The benefit of one of the benefits of taking that course is being able to architect your story about yourself. And from there, you're going to feel the way you want to feel and operate and navigate in the ways that you know you have to in order to be successful. Like we said earlier in the first podcast, the more someone understands about how their words are influencing them and how much control that they have over the words that they allow themselves to believe, they turn into they become that much more empowered.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the outcomes? Confidence, focus, momentum, clarity, community, connection. Emotional endurance goes up. Psychological immunity goes up. Emotional immunity goes up.
Clarity.
You
is
drop
a
the
big one
phone,
for
you
me.
drop the plate, and it's just
Yep.
that. It's
Mhm.
not that 11th commandment of me being not good enough for whatever enough. It's just, it is what it is. The sales are down. Okay, the sales are up. The sales are down. The sales are up. Is what that is.
Yeah. That. I think I'm on day 8 of Procabulary, and I've noticed that the level of clarity that I've gained in 1 week has been tremendous. That's just 1 week, and like I said before, I live in a world where
Yeah, you guys are in this.
we live in a world where we're surrounded by people who are constantly trying to up level, and for us to be in something that's a week or two in, and we're all throwing around high fives and calling each other out, and we have a whole new way of doing things because of it, is super powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not our first exposure to anything, and wow, this is like, oh, I found this new type of thing. It's like, no, we live in this kind of thing, and this is amazing. It's really good.
Yeah. I might have mentioned it earlier on the show, but one of the greatest endorsements that I can give you on this program is that I can't. It's not that I try to use it all day long. It's I can't not use what I learned all day long, which means it's I think there's a lot of value in it. So to you, dear listener, I highly recommend you check it out because I can't not use it all day long. I'm going to use it probably for the rest of my life.
That's why we do this. That's why we do this. That kind of feedback.
Even though it's engaging.
It's and it's super exciting. Yeah, if any one of the listeners wants to take the course, Core Language Upgrade, this is how you do it. You go to procabulary.org. You click on Shop. Click on Core Language Upgrade. Click Add to Cart, then View Cart. You'll see a coupon code box. Put Barbell in there. It's a $300 course. You'll get $100 off. It's very easy to take too. Very, very easy to take too, because we know you guys are the kind of guys that take these kinds of courses. You're all busy doing other things. So it's a 5-minute video, quick quiz. You're in and out in 10 to 15 minutes, 21 days. And what it does amongst creating those kinds of amounts of clarity and focus and community, it starts the conversation about words and stories and how we use them and how we influence them. And once that conversation is started in a certain kind of way, it's always there to whatever degree. So like you said, Doug, I can't not use it. I can't unlearn it. That's the point. We created Core Language Upgrade to do that to people. And we also coach. We also help people resolve their problems and achieve their goals.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way, for giving our listeners $100 off. That's pretty fucking cool. But
My pleasure.
one more recommendation that I have for anyone that decides to invest in this course is to listen to it with someone who is important to you. You know, listen with your
World-class
I mentioned
advice.
brother earlier. Listen with your brother. Listen with, in my case, I'm listening with my wife, and getting us both on the same page about how we're proactively choosing to communicate with each other. I think is very powerful. So. You know, one of the concepts in your course is conflict language versus architect language. Not using the conflict language means that you are not in conflict as much, which means you're not going to fight as much. Which for me and my wife is, you know, that's a phenomenal gift that you can give to somebody for, you know, a couple $100. For the whole rest of my life, I'm going to be fighting less. I don't fight with my wife a lot as is, of course, but
Yeah.
But I mean, everyone has a wife.
Sure.
You know, you bicker on occasion. So
Cut that in half. Happy days.
totally, like I can already tell in like the 2 weeks that we've been doing it that we are way more on the same page about how we speak, and actually how we speak to our children. And
That's
it
awesome.
it sounds crazy, but like even dealing with my 1.5 to 2 year old, like how I speak to him, I feel like is different. It creates less conflict with someone who doesn't know what the hell's going on really, but does. If that makes any sense.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Parents' language scaffolds their children's character.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a parent,
Mic drop.
pretty much have to do it. My favorite part of the whole course is being able to show my wife how wrong she is.
Yeah.
See, I told you, you
that's-
always
yep.
get that wrong.
I had to throw that
Now
one
make
in
me
there.
some breakfast.
I love you, Ashley.
No. Yeah, we
She knows it's all her fault.
Love them. Y'all are hitting the high notes.
my wife and I are doing the same thing, and it's literally every single segment we look at each other and we're like, oh. We have immediately a story that we already have between each other that we can tie that to, and we're like, shit. And I think in doing, you know what I'm talking about, something you just are, you know, debated a week ago, or something that was just an issue over breakfast yesterday, or whatever these little moments may be.
The pebbles in the shoe.
Right? And you start to identify the opportunities that we have to maybe just say it a little differently and completely bypass that headache altogether. And it's a very, very powerful program. I think something, I don't say this often, but it's like something you get your money's worth like on day one. And every day after that is literally just compounding return on investment. So good job, man. Killer program.
Thank you very, very much. Procabulary buddies. That's what you're talking about. Getting someone to do it with you, your wife, a group of people, all the trainers in a gym.
Yeah, do it with your staff.
It makes it exponentially more powerful.
We have the whole Barbell Shrug crew doing it.
Yeah, the whole team is doing it.
There's like 15 people, and it's a conversation in the company now, which is I'm doing backflips in my living room because of what the positive impact that's happened in just 2 weeks of people doing it. I was like, I just asked them, I'm like, please just spend 10 minutes a day doing this. And I check in with some of the people, some of our folks, and you know, we have a conversation about it, and it's super pleasurable. And knowing that there's going to be more clarity in our meetings are going to be shorter, more effective, less guesswork, less conflict, you know, and you know,
The stuff that predicates massive success.
yeah. Yeah, I feel as if it is giving us some new momentum. So, anyways, look, we don't do this hardly ever. When was the last time we brought someone on and said, do their shit, do their shit, do their shit? We never do this. Go do it, period. Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Guys, thanks for
Thanks,
having me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Really.
Where can we find you online, social media, etc.?
Procabulary.org. Sign up for our newsletter there. Facebook and Instagram, Procabulary 2020.
Nice.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming
Thanks,
on the show.
See you guys next
Pleasure.
week.